Hi, welcome to the Crafts channel. My name is Corinne Brad, and today I'd like to demonstrate how to make something that your mother or your grandmother probably had in their kitchen all the time. And for some reason we abandoned them and went for those horrible green and yellow plastic sponges to do our washing up. It is of course the humble dishcloth, but these are beautiful humble dishcloths in beautiful colours, made from 100% cotton, just really from balls of yarn that I've picked up at charity shops and car boot sales, and they're made with a minimum of stitches. You just need to know how to do a chain stitch, a double crochet and a treble. So I have a lovely yellow here, can't find the end of it. And this is DK weight yarn, but as I say, it's 100% cotton. It's lovely to work with. I'm just going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And you start your crochet with a slip knot. Now, if you've never crocheted before, you simply wind the yarn around your finger and use it as a hook to make a slip knot, which then pulls apart. So we'll do that. Pop that slip knot onto your hook, and this is a 4mm hook. Another thing I'd like to just say, these are brilliant. These are ergonomically friendly. So if you have problems with arthritis or carpal tunnel syndrome, this makes life so much easier because you don't have to grip it really hard. And then with your yarn, if you just put 3 fingers behind the yarn, wrap it round once, and then hold it between your thumb and forefinger, that keeps a bit of tension in there without you having to grip it really tightly. So, to do a chain, take your yarn round the back of the hook, grab this knot that you've done, and just flip that knot over. I'll do it again. And for these dishcloths, you need to chain 26 stitches. I'm not going to chain 26 stitches on here because then to make a dishcloth would take ages. But I'll just show you how easy it is to chain, and try not to make that tension too tight because in a minute you're going to need to go back into those stitches to make your first row of double crochet, which makes a nice neat foundation row. Okay, so we have a nice chain, and if you ever did finger knitting at school, you know, in the playground, it's exactly the same method. So to do your first foundation row of double crochet, you need to ignore that first whole stitch that's by the side of your needle, and then take your hook, and there'll be 3 bits of yarn. There'll be this bit up here, there'll be this bit down there, and there's a bit on the back. If you just pop your hook through that hole there, so that when you bring it forward, you've got 2 stitches above the hook, or 2 bits of yarn above the hook. Bring that through. Oh, I really didn't demonstrate that very well, did I? Pop it through this loop here, so you've got 2 loops above the hook. Bring your yarn over the hook and through the stitch, so you've got 2 loops on your hook, over again and through those 2 loops, and that makes your first double crochet. So again, pop it through that loop at the bottom here, so you have 2 loops on the top, bring it over and through, and then through 2. Now the reason I tend to put it through the single loop at the bottom of the chain is because if you just catch the first loop on the top of the chain, you can get it quite saggy. This way, you keep your foundation row nice and strong because you're not putting any tension on that single loop, you're putting the tension on the 2 loops, so it keeps it nice and stiff. And because you've made your original chain row quite loose, so that you can get the hook in there easily, you don't want to end up, what you don't want to end up is you don't want to end up with a baggy first row of stitches. And as you can see, this is coming along quite nicely. You've got a bit of give in it still, and I'm putting very, very little tension on this yarn altogether. Because crochet is supposed to be a relaxing hobby, and if you're really tense and you're gripping your hook and you're gripping your yarn and you're gritting your teeth because you don't know what you're doing, it just takes all the joy out of it. So I will just finish this foundation row of double crochet stitches. If you're watching in the States, you would call them single crochet stitches. I have no idea why we differ in that way, but I know sometimes when I've looked at patterns before, I've not been able to work out what the hell I'm doing because of the difference in terminology. So we'll just keep continuing like this. And you'll find that the foundation row is the trickiest part of this, just because it's a little bit fiddly, because you haven't really got a lot of fabric to hold on to. Once you start building up your rows, you can whip through this really, really quickly. Now, it helps if you have crocheted before. If you haven't, a treble is very, very easy. You've just got to count how many loops you've got on the hook. And working with trebles is one of the easiest ways actually to get yourself comfortable with the hook and the yarn. And the other thing is it builds up a project really quickly. So, you know, if you're going to start crocheting, don't start with the most complicated pattern that you can find. Start with something as easy and just as repetitive as this. So there we go. I've come to the end of my foundation row, as you can see here. I've got no idea how many stitches are on that, but then that's no different because I never normally do. And then we're going to work the first row of trebles. And I'll just show you what I mean by a treble. Each of these ones is a treble. So it's a nice long stitch, you've got nicer holes in there, and for a dishcloth it's perfect because it means that you can wrap it around your hand, you can get it in, you know, the nooks and crannies of your washing up, but it's still quite a good solid fabric. So a lot of people, when they start their first row of trebles, they chain 3 stitches because they figure that 3 stitches is the height of one treble. I've always found that's a bit baggy. Now, whether that's because my tension is always so loose, I don't know. So I'm just going to do 1 chain and 2 chains. And then I'm going to turn the work around and I'm going to work back into this row that I've just put the double crochet in. So yarn over your hook. Normally what you'd do is you'd just go straight in there. Because it's a treble, you're going to put an extra stitch in your crochet. So put your yarn over your hook, pop it through. So again, you've got the 2 loops on the top of your hook. Yarn through again and pull it through. So you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again, and then pull it through 2 of the loops. Yarn over again, 2 of the loops. And then exactly the same, yarn over, through, hook, yarn over, through 2, over, through 2, over, and through 2, hook it back, over, through 2, over, through 2. Now I'm not going to keep repeating myself because it's possibly quite soporific and you'll fall asleep by the end of the demonstration. But you can see how easy it is and how quick it is to build up quite a nice wide row of quite substantial crochet. And I mean, trebles are great for blankets, you know, if you want to make a nice crochet top, because they're not too holey, but they don't use an awful lot of yarn, and you get a nice build-up of material very, very quickly. I'm just going to release some more yarn. So then I'll finish this row. And if I'm working too quickly for you, if you're watching this on our YouTube crafts channel, you will probably find that somewhere down the bottom of the screen, there's a little cogwheel sign. I reckon it will be down there. And I believe you can slow the speed of the video down so that if you're not bothered about hearing me talk, you can actually watch me doing this in slow motion, which might make it much easier for you to pick up if you've never crocheted before. I'm just going to come to the end of this row here. Oh. And the larger your work gets, the easier it is to work with because you've got more to hang on to. I always believe that I don't crochet, although I'm left-handed, I do crochet right-handedly. But I've seen people that don't seem to move the material or the yarn at all. They just do everything with the hook, and I'm fascinated how they manage to do that, because I have to move both hands in both directions, but you get the same end result. So that's the end of that row, like so. And then again, all you'll do is you'll chain 2, turn your work round, and then go back into the top of that stitch like this. And just keep a count of the stitches that you do, because you want to make sure that you've got 25 or 26 trebles in each row. If you end up putting more stitches in where you shouldn't do, you'll end up with it will go out like this, or it will go in like this. But you'll get the hang of it. And what I would just like to show you is what it looks like when it's finished, because we put a very nice picot edging on this. I'm just going to get that bit of dog hair out of there. So when you've finished, your yarn miraculously changes colour. No, it doesn't. This is your mat in a nice pink yarn. And I've just finished it off there with this last row of trebles. And then what I'm going to do is just make it so that it is as firm on that edge as it was on the other one by running double crochet along the edge again. So chain one, because you're turning the work, and then just simply working exactly the same as you're working the trebles, but you don't put that extra loop on the needle to start with. You just run your double crochet like so. Oh. I will just do this very quickly. Sorry if my fingers are working faster than you can follow. Oh. And as I said before, if you can try and make sure you go through 2 of those loops, if you go through one of them, what happens is it gets too big and it gets too loopy. So if you go through both of them, you're pulling on it at the same time, so you don't end up with, you know, weird edges. And when I reach the end of this row, I'm just going to show you how to tidy it up with a picot edge. My last stitch there. Okay. So if you've got handy hooks and things like that in your kitchen, what you can do is you can just chain yourself about 10 stitches, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then take it back into that loop with a double crochet to make a hanging hook like this. And then you work the same method to do a picot edging, but you don't make them so big. So I'd just do 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're working those chains along this top edge that you've got your nice double crochet on, you can just slip stitch it into every other stitch. So you get the bumpy edge like this. When you're working down the side, just treat every join or every new row as a stitch, and then simply go into this hole here. And you don't even need to put the yarn around the hook again, and slip stitch it. Do another chain of 4. Go into this hole here, grab it, and just slip it back through there. And that's what a slip stitch is. It's like a double crochet without the extra yarn wrap. You know, double crochet you'd normally go like that. Slip stitch, you don't do it, just slip it back through there. And it will build up like this. And, you know, I'm a fan of these dishcloths. My grandmother's dishcloths were hideous. They were always brown and grubby and horrible. But I don't suggest you do it in white cotton. You know, if you're scrubbing out a saucepan or you're cleaning up your Foreman grill or something like that, it will get filthy really, really quickly. But any nice coloured cottons that you've got scraps of laying around, and they just pop them in the washing machine. You don't need to specially wash them. I mean, you know, if you're worried about germs, you could even pop them in the vegetable water when you've taken the vegetables out of it and give them a bit of a boil up in there and then pop them in the washing machine. But I do think they are actually far more hygienic than those horrible sponges that you get now. So I've got rid of all of them and I'm just relying upon dishcloths. And my kitchen is a much happier place. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that has inspired you to start crocheting if you've never tried it before, or it's just given you an idea what to do with all those odds and sods of wool that you've got lying around. But I'd say cotton is your best bet. It gives a nice abrasive surface when you're scrubbing things, it absorbs plenty of water, and it's easy to keep clean. So catch up with us again soon. We'll have more great videos for you to enjoy, and until then, we will see you next time. Thank you. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.